Hi everyone, it's Plastic EP here. I'm so happy to have one of the greatest Australian music legends with me today, Mr. Issi Die. Let's hear it for Issi.
Hi,
Welcome,
Danny.
Issi.
How are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's great to be with you in this strange times.
Well, the good thing is there's so many people at home, Issi, that they've got no entertainment now, so they're going to be enthralled by your rock and roll lifestyle because this show's called Issi Die. It's only rock and roll, hosted by Plastic EP. I can't say more than that. And we've got to start off, first of all, with those pictures behind you. Take your time.
Well, this photo here was when I released. How are you, Danny, by the way? And hi, everybody watching. It's the first time I've done this, so please excuse me if I stuff up a bit. But anyway,
No, it's fine.
Here, we've got this is back in the late 60s when I recorded, and early 70s when I recorded One Last Kiss, and you've probably seen that on the TV. Love Itis, Incense, all those programs. I had my wild hair, which was really a takeoff from the Jimi Hendrix days, mate. The days when the late 60s when Jimi Hendrix was such a big star, and the fuzzy hair was good. And of course, fortunately, I had a lot of hair then, and I was able to do that style. So that was very good for me for that first 5 or 6 years of my career. But then I smoothed it up a little bit to this picture over here, which is a bit more of the old long hair, probably the early 70s, mid 70s, when most of us started to look a little bit like the Bee Gees style, you know, Saturday Night Fever, the guys from the Eagles. It was all the long hair look. So we've gone away from the 60s pop stuff and the 60s Jimi Hendrix look, and moved across into the days of when it was more the long hair stuff, 70s stuff. Good time.
We went into the flares with the wide shirt, collar. Remember that?
Absolutely.
The open shirt. That's what it was.
Well, look, you know what's so crazy? Everything old is new again. I've noticed that recently the big flares are back again, and I looked the other day at a photo that when I was doing the advertising in the early days for Amco jeans, and I had the 35-inch flares, and it was all those days. And of course now, 45 years later, it's back in fashion again, mate. So I probably should have kept a few more pairs.
That's true. But you know what? I got to say something to you. Now, let's talk about Love Itis. Okay. And the reason why I talk about that song is the actual effects on that song are the greatest, because up until that point, we're watching black and white TV, right? It's not color yet.
Yep, it's not color.
And it's something that you never saw. Those effects, I don't know how they did it on that film clip, but I'm telling you, that film clip is a classic.
Thanks, mate. Look, I wish the song was a classic, but it did get bagged a bit. Oh, Love Itis, what the hell's that? It was a hippie dope smoking type TV song. But look, remember in those days we were trying to attract the young audiences that had been to Woodstock and that style, and Sunbury and all that type of thing. So the hippies were in, and of course that type of psychedelic look was really popular in the late 60s and early 70s. So we were just one of it. And it was lucky that that film clip had that, and that was on Hit Scene with Dick Williams. So congratulations to them for innovating a pretty good style. And a lot of the musical clips that came after that started to have that sort of diving in and out and the psychedelic look. So we were pretty innovative, I think, in those days.
I agree. What I need to tell you is, you know what my favorite Issi Die song is?
Tell me.
Okay. I really love Little Teeny Bopper. Is it Teeny Bopper or is it Little Teeny Bopper?
I've got a good story about that, mate.
Please, I want to hear it. But is it Little Teeny Bopper or is it Teeny Bopper, the title of the song?
No, it's Teeny Bopper is the title of the song, but we call it Little Teeny Bopper. But in actual fact, it was a song that was really originally written by Chuck Berry called Little Queenie. Go, little Queenie. It was go,
I know it.
And of course, we took a bit of poetic license and we changed it to go, little Queenie. And it was an interesting time because, again, it was early 70s. We're on the Happening 70s program with Jeff Phillips and Rusty Wiley and Johnny Farnham and everyone else. And once again, they were looking for something which related to the teenagers and gave me an opportunity to sing a great rock and roll classic but giving it, again, a 70s twist. In the end, we were told that we weren't allowed to use the same lines because they were encroaching on the song Little Queenie. But in the end, we still ended up singing it, and a lot of people love the song.
Now, I've got to ask you, Izzy, I'm going to sing a lyric from the song, and I want you to say the lyrics after it, but say it slow so I can get it. We're going to start from here.
Hang on. I've got to remember it first, remember?
All right, but try, please, for the fans out there. You
Okay,
fans. All right, listen. She's a groupie. She won't admit it. What's after that?
She's a groupie. She won't admit it. She likes, oh, my God.
She loves the Beatles.
She loves, I think it was something, I said something like, and
she
to get with it. Yes. Yes.
Right.
You see, you remember, I should have put it on before I talked to you. I knew that. But remember, we were using words then when we went into the studios at Bill Armstrong's. And as I said, we had people like the Master's Apprentices, the Town Criers. They were all, and Peter Robinson, all the well-known musicians. They were in there doing the backings of the songs in Bill Armstrong Studios in Albert Road. And that was a legendary place to record anyway. And when we did that song, they said, look, put in things that are going to be relevant as you feel them, just like I'm doing today with you, mate. I just like to make it up. So I made up a few lines in there, and I used those lines. You know, she likes the Beatles. She gets with it. Go, little teeny. So it's
give me a second. Give me a second. Come on, sing along with it.
You think I can hear it? I can't hear it.
I'm rocking out here.
Got a picture in a wallet and a rock and roll record in her hand.
Whoa.
She's not teeny bopper. Go, go, little teeny bopper.
Go, go, little teeny bopper.
You can do it, mate. You do it better than me.
No, because you know why? I actually, because it's basically going the other way because I get to hear it and it's got a little delay to you. That's why.
That's all right. Look, there's always a delay between you and me, Danny. You know that.
It's all right. You could call me Plastic EP.
Oh, well, I could call you Plastic. And you are. Listen, if I've ever met a plastic guy in my life, it's you.
Thank you. And you know where the Plastic EP comes from, don't you?
Well, tell me a little bit. I've often wondered, actually.
Okay, I'm going to give you a clue. You remember in the 60s there's something called an EP?
Yeah, of course. I've got one here.
Okay, how many songs are on an EP?
There's my EP with 4 songs on it.
Beauty, just bend it a little bit forward. Oh, incense. Look at that. Fantastic.
The light's a bit funny there, but...
No, that's right. Now we can see it. Now I can see it. It's on the festival label.
Yep. But look, you know, EPs. You're right. EPs were, I guess, they were specially made for the teenagers who wanted to have more than only one song, like a single, but they couldn't afford a full album, which in those days was pretty expensive. Remember, vinyl albums. This is young kids, so they decided to put out EPs. And one of the first EPs I ever saw was, of course, recorded was the Beatles. They were the first ones to put the 4 great hit songs on one EP, and it gave kids a chance to have four different songs rather than a whole album of a dozen and only pay, 10 bob or something, which is, do you remember 10 bob?
Of course. I don't go back that far, but let me explain something easy. Plastic EP is the EP, the 45 7-inch single with 2 songs on one side, 2 on the other, what you showed me, but it's made of vinyl, which vinyl refers to plastic. So that's where you get the plastic EP. Get it?
It's perfect, mate. It's amazing. And not only that, you look like that.
But I've got to tell you, I started my own band in 1981. People can look it up in the net, right? And it's Plastic EP and the records. And I released my first 7-inch vinyl single in 1981. They can look it up. But it's not about me, Izzy. Today is about you. So getting back to the songs, right? I just want to say that Teeny Bopper is just a great song, and that Love Itis, another great song. And this is why you were on your musical journey. And I got to tell you, One Last Kiss is Peter Elvis's favorite song, just so you know.
Well, Peter Elvis is one of my favourite artists too, so that's good.
No. So basically, let's pick it up from there. So if I was going to be, this is the great thing, with all those singles coming out,
yep,
you had an Izzy Die fan club, right?
We had a fan club in those days that you know, if you were lucky enough to have a fan club, it meant that they would come along to all your gigs. They'd buy your singles. They when you you know, did a shopping centre promotion, or you were going into a record store, you always had the support of the young kids. And to this day, I'm still in touch with a few of the kids that were then, which were only like 12, 13, 14 in those days, and now they're in their 50s and 60s. And it's a great honour to have had an Izzy Die fan club. But I must admit that that's long gone now, mate. Long gone now.
Exactly. But I want to say something. If I was the president of your Izzy Die fan club, let's say from 69, yep, and I had to give out badges to all your fans, I've got 4 badges, and I want you to pick which is the best motto for your career, please. All right?
Okay. Yep. Let's have a look.
I die for Izzy Die.
I would die for, well, okay. Yeah, that's one.
Right. Second one. Izzy Die, he's the guy.
He's the man. No.
Yeah, basically. What about this one? Because it's like the hippie coming in and whatever and psychedelic. Get down with Izzy Die.
Good. And?
Right? And as I said, this is the last one, which I think you got it before I did. So Izzy Die is my kind of guy. So I'm going to say the 4 again and tell me which is the one you reckon would have made it to a badge, all right?
I can tell you which one already. I can tell you which one.
Okay, tell me. Save time.
Eh?
Save time.
Okay, no, I can tell you which one made it to a badge, because when I went to the markets in the early 1970s and I saw a badge there for sale and it had on it, Izzy Dead.
What?
That's true. Izzy Dead. Not Izzy Die, Izzy Dead.
Izzy
and
Dead, I get it.
And but, you know what? It's one that it's people remember it. And let's face it, it's a fun tongue-in-cheek thing, but that they sold a lot of those badges, I can tell you.
Also, I've got to tell you, with Love-itis, don't get me wrong, but if you're a little kid, like you're 8, 9 years old, you could read that as Love It Is.
That's right. Well, look, it was it came from an American songbook, of course, which we picked it up from. But Love-itis was, I guess, it was like you know, if it's you're creating a song about like having something wrong with you or something right with you. Love-itis. Oh, I've got love-itis. I've got some sort of a disease. Whether that wasn't supposed to be bad, in the nicest way. So I picked up a fun thing called Love-itis. Love It Is. Well, no, that's not the way it was supposed to be handled. It was Love-itis for sure.
Exactly. Have you got any other mementos you want to share with us?
Sure,
any
absolutely. I know that in 1972, when I joined my good mate Ronnie Burns, who has been on the Go Show for the last many years, we've been on the Go Show together, and a great Melbourne entertainer. And him and I went to the Melbourne Cup, and here I was dressed in a full-length carpeted style mosaic jacket from top to tail, with all the big flared shirts, flared pants, and Ronnie was in a denim coat with all leather trimmings. Absolutely brilliant. So let's see if you can see that. Tell me if you can see it. There we go. Now I'll get it out nicely.
Yeah, I can see just a little bit up. Yeah, exactly where you are. Hold it there, Izzy. Yep, that's the Melbourne Cup, 1970. What is it?
1972.
Okay, I'll tell you, that is a famous photo. I've seen it in books. I've seen it everywhere. That is unbelievable for that time.
Well, you've got to understand that. Look, just have a look at the once again the style that we had. Ronnie and I, we both enjoyed fashions. I mean, Ronnie particularly loved the high fashion stuff, and I was lucky because I was doing a lot of commercials in those days for top fashion houses, and was lucky enough to be able to accrue really nice clothing. And so we were always out there. So when we went to the Melbourne Cup, I must admit, we definitely drew a lot of attention with our style of clothing on that day at the Melbourne Cup. It was a wonderful day. But look, great memories. And once again, thanks very much for whoever took the picture, because it's now an iconic photo.
It's a famous photo. I can tell you that now. And I'm saying, in your career, playing live to all these crowds, one thing about the Australian fans, they used to throw streamers. That's right.
They did. They never look to Tom Jones. They threw underwear. To me, they threw streamers. What can I say? But you know, you got to understand that over my career, which is from 1966, I think I started 66. So we're looking at about 54 years ago. When I first started in the early days, there was a little bit of jazz going, a little bit of the country, a little bit of the Beatles. Where were we going to go? And fortunately, I joined up with some guys at the end of the 60s called Turning On with Baby John Burgess. So I was lucky enough to have a career on television really early. And that by doing television, look, especially in the late 60s and early 70s, it gave us national exposure, and we were able to tour around Australia performing different songs. And that was probably the most fun part, touring all over the country after people had seen you on TV.
And I've got to say, during the 70s, you remember the skinheads, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Have you got any stories to tell me about when you were on stage or touring, or people
only that we used to get the skinheads that come to our gigs, and they would protect the artists. So that's what I liked. We got to know a lot of them actually in the early days, and a lot of the guys were the Sharpie type dudes, and you know, there was the rockers and the mods. But look, we got over it. The main thing was everyone had their style. They also had their particular smooth, sharp-looking style with their haircuts and their clothing and everything like that. And that was another thing. Remember, that's how styles lead into a change in style for the kids, for the teenagers. That's how they get their change of style, by watching their peers. And if it wasn't for the guys like the Sharpies and the rockers and the mods, then we wouldn't have had all the fashion styles going on after that in the 70s and the 80s and 90s.
Now, I've got to cover this other point now. You've got to tell me the story behind the Easy Die dances and that clip where you're dancing and leading other people with the Valentines, and you got Bon Scott singing with the group, the Valentines, because that was his group as well. Tell me how you became the Easy Die dancers and did those gigs about dancing.
The Easy Die, thanks, mate. Look, the dancing part of it really became a necessity, because when we were doing the TV, the contract that we signed was to be able to sing songs every week, but also when a big act came in, for example, the Valentines with you know, Bon Scott and the Town Criers, many other bands, The Gathering, lots of groups gone on there. They said, look, myself and Molly Meldrum and Lyndall Hobbs and a couple of others, we were also called in to dance, sort of like the guys in Commotion did a couple of 3 or 4 years before that, when they were doing the miming and the Commotion style. They were dancing as well as miming, but we were singing live as well as dancing. And I think it gave me a whole new aspect, because it meant that I had to learn how to dance and be able to take rhythm and as well as back up a singer. So, yeah, it expanded my career, and I thank them for it.
And, I mean, it kept you fit as well.
It did.
I like in those days.
I've always been about, I've always been about 68 kilos, something like that. I'm still about 68 kilos.
I think that song you did, I might be wrong, but I think they did Build Me Up, Buttercup.
They did. Why don't you build me up, Buttercup, baby, don't you let me down. And I remember,
this is going down memory lane for you, isn't it?
Well, I remember when I first met Bon Scott, and the boys, he came over from Perth, and they didn't know anybody. We met them at the Treble Clef for coffee down there in Toorak in Melbourne. That's where everyone met. The Seekers, everybody got down there and had their coffees and late night meetings. And they said, oh, we'd come over from Perth, and we've come with Johnny Young, and Johnny Young was just arrived from Perth, starting at Caroline. So all of a sudden, in those days, it was a wonderful thing, because we did have a lot of television shows to appear on, and at the same time, we were able to be friends and sort of have our own career, but also be friends with all the other guys in the music business, which unfortunately I don't think is as much happening today, because most artists do their own thing and only get together very rarely. But in those days, we were lucky enough to get together with the artists after the shows, Masters Apprentices, the Town Criers, all the big bands, the Zoot, love socializing and having our nights together. It was a wonderful, memorable time, mate, back in the 60s.
That's what do you call it? Camaraderie. They got that. They don't have that now.
Camaraderie. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, you know,
I'm a bit tongue-tied trying to do the interview because it's very touching. You're going to understand. This interview to me, it's about you, Izzy, and I'm just so proud to be able to interview and tell your story. And musically, we're coming down that journey. And to me, as I said, I remember watching you on TV. There was only like 4 channels: Channel O, Channel 2, Channel 9, and Channel 7. And half the time, I had to hold the aerial next to the TV, the one that had the plastic, to get the reception. Right. That's true.
Listen, you know, look, you got to understand that we were so lucky because in those times, video clips hadn't started to become big yet. They slowly came through, and people like the Twilights and bands started to put together film clips, and all of a sudden the artists were able to have a film clip to sell their music, which was tremendous. Of course, it then went on to be legendary. To have an expensive film clip to sell your music became a must-do thing. But in the early days, it was very unusual. So we were really looking to sell your image, to sell your songs and your show. You had to be performing live on television, sing your songs live. Look, I did all the television shows from things like Sunny Side Up and the early days of the Go Show, going through to Happening 70s, Bandstand, all those early shows right into the 70s when we had the Happening 70s and the Countdown. And, of course, people like Don Lane, they were all the guys that supported live music, and that's why we were so lucky in the 60s and 70s to have live television so people around Australia could see us performing every week.
Now, I've got to ask you, we're talking about the groups there. Ronnie Burns plays in one of the Twilights' clips. They did a little movie, a tiny one where he plays one of their friends. Have you seen that movie? I
haven't seen that, but I'll have a look at it. Now, you got to understand, as I said, in those days when we were doing things like the Go Show and the television, Happening 70s, the Uptight Show with Ross D. Wiley, there was, although everything was scripted and done as per get up there and sing your song, there was a lot of also free time where you were able to sing a song with another artist or appear on there in a little panel, talk about things like we used to sit on a panel and talk about music and talk about fashion things. And I've got several of those clips out there. So that was the fun times then. But of course, it was all new then. And it wasn't as slick as it is today, where everything is very tight for time. We were lucky then because we were able to have a bit of time and do different things on television, which, of course, was a new thing then, a new thing.
Of course. Well, I mean, TV, Channel O, Uptight, Happening 70. I mean, you were there. I mean.
Thanks, mate. Look, I enjoyed that. Well, the exciting part about it was all the other people that I worked with that came along for the ride. And to this day, I can still say that some of my best friends in show business, I'm still really close to. Normie Rowe, Ronnie Charles, Ross D. Wiley, people like Johnny Young, and many of those other entertainers, people like Marty Rose from the Marty Rose Band, Gil Matthews, all the guys that were in rock and roll, the Aztecs, big bands. And to this day, God forbid, all the guys that I love, they're all still up there kicking backside and working. And after 50-odd years, where many of us are still going, and I think it's a credit to them. And it's so nice that we've got history and we can go back, and when we sit to have a coffee or have a glass of wine and talk about the old days, we've got some things to talk about, and it's great. Fantastic.
Izzy, I've got to tell you, Australia loves you, and you're an Australian rock and roll legend. And it was such a pleasure talking to you today, seeing some of your mementos.
Thanks, man.
Mementos, and unbelievable music ride that you had. And thanks again for the interview today, Izzy. And if you want to take us out, say goodbye to your fans.
I will do. And look, I'll just say thanks again, Plastic EP. I really appreciate you having me on here. Say hello to your mate, Peter. He's a great Elvis actor, and I love him dearly. The other thing is, for those people who are out there, I'm certainly not retired. I'm out there doing gigs. In fact, I had over 100 shows booked for the next couple of 2 or 3 months. Unfortunately, many of them, because of the situation, have been cancelled. But we do look forward to seeing you back again at some of our shows, places like the Dorset Gardens or the Morwell Club, or up in Sydney or Queensland. Come along and see us, please do. And remind us that we're on TV with the great Plastic EP, and you saw a bit of my life story. Otherwise, we'll catch you soon.
Thanks again. Over and out. Peace and love.